Freedom is what you need. Without freedom, you can't have free thought. Without free thought, you can't have free expression. You can't think about the great ideas to create your clinics and your businesses. And without that, you can't have free enterprise. You have to lick the tyrant's boot just to get a few crumbs for yourself and your family. And that's why I believe all of us that are entrepreneurs, freedom is innately what we seek. Freedom is innately what it's all about for us.
Welcome to the Super Clinic Project Podcast, where we take regular clinic owners and turn them into cash-based multimillionaire entrepreneurs. Warning, if you're a doctor who listens to this podcast regularly, you will make millions of dollars. Do not listen to this podcast unless you want to be a successful clinic owner who helps thousands of patients achieve their health goals and adds more money than you can imagine to your bank account. You've been warned.
Welcome to the Super Clinic Project Podcast, where we take regular clinic owners and we turn them into super clinic owners. I'm your host, Jennifer Gligoric, and today we have an incredible guest. He's a two-time New York Times bestselling author, an advisor, a podcaster, highly sought-after corporate speaker to audiences like Lululemon, Tourstar Media. So let us welcome the dynamic Nicky Billou and host of Thought Leader Revolution podcast to the show today. And he's also the founder of the E-Circle Academy. Welcome, Nicky. I am so excited to have you today.
Jennifer, it's an honor to be here. Thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah, it's nice to have a fellow podcaster on the show, especially because you've interviewed some really amazing people. You've interviewed John Maxwell, Barbara Corcoran, Jack Canfield, Scott Adams, who I absolutely love and follow because he is off-hinged right now, and I love it because we need off-hinged people to just tell us what they really think, right? What was your favorite guest, and did they find anything? So think about our owners. We are clinic owners, right? In thinking of that, what do you think is one of your most interesting guests? If you had to talk to a fellow clinic owner, well, one of our clinic owners, that you would definitely tell them you need to check out that episode.
You know, that's a fantastic question. And I've done almost 700 episodes in this podcast, and we've had some unreal guests. It's really difficult to narrow it down to one, but I'll tell you about 3 or 4 that I think are good. Well, Scott Adams, rock star, especially I've had him on twice. The first time I had him on, he was talking about persuasion, and it was brilliant. What he had to say was rock star level stuff. Jack Canfield, I actually got to spend the week with Jack Canfield last week. I was invited to speak at his high-level mastermind, the Transformational Leadership Council. I shared the stage with him, with Joe Polish, with Lisa Nichols and people like that. That was super califragilistic. Jack is a rock star. He was amazing on the show. John Maxwell was super great on the show. My favorite all-time guest is a man named Mark von Musser. Mark used to be Tony Robbins' director of coaching and training, sales training, I should say. Incredible guy, brilliant man. I've had him on the show 20 times. That should tell you how much I love him and what he has to talk about.
Well, I love that, but you're here, and I love knowing this. So you guys, we will always have the episode there, and we'll have all the notes, so you can check out everybody too. Because the reason we have Nicky on the show is he helps people make a lot of money, and he is going to help us add $30,000 to our income in 30 days, and that's what he speaks on. He works with a lot of different people, so let's go ahead and dive right into it. Tell us a little bit. When I work with clinic owners, the first thing that they tell me, I'll say, why are you doing this, right? And besides the divine responsibility they feel they have to get their purpose out. Like, I feel like it's my purpose to do this. And I work with all service people. I mean, I work florists, roofers, plumbers, but most of them are healthcare owners, right? And so they're healthcare clinic owners. And when they, besides the, wanting to help people out in the world, what they know that they can bring to help their neighbors and society as a whole with their values, the other thing they talk about is they want more freedom. And so you talk about this a lot, about why freedom is important and why free enterprise matters. So talk a little bit about that, because you're so passionate about it, as we move into all of your tips.
That's a great question. Let me start by answering it with my backstory. I'm originally an immigrant from the Middle East. I'm a Christian from Iran. Now, when I was 11 years old, the Islamic Revolution took place in Iran, and the secular, pro-Western, modernist government of the Shah of Iran, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, was overthrown, and it was taken over by repressive, theocratic government of the mullahs, who basically wanted to drag Iran back to the 7th century, the 8th century. And in addition to that, there were literally gun battles in the streets. In fact, gun battles in the streets near my home. One day, a Molotov cocktail sailed through our living room window, smashing the glass in the window, and it landed next to me, next to my feet. So I'm a kid, right? I'm looking at it and I'm terrified. I don't even exactly know what it is, but I'm rooted to the spot. My father sees it. He grabs the bottle. He pulls out the burning rag. And then he shows me the bottle. There was a note taped to it that said, "Die, Christian scum." And so my mom and dad, they went, "Whoa, man, this is not a place to raise a Christian family." Maybe you can relate, right? I don't know if you have kids yourself or you have people that you really care about deeply. If something was like threatening their well-being, just imagine how you would feel, right? And that's what happened is mom and dad said, "We're leaving." And they made a plan. It took them 2 years to get us out of Iran and into Athens, Greece. And then from Athens, Greece, it took another 2 years for them to get us to where I now live in Toronto, Canada. Now, remember, I'm a kid at that time, right? I'm 11, 12, 13, 14 years old, shy of 15. I didn't want to leave my home or my friends. Maybe you can relate. Maybe when you were a kid, you didn't want to leave your home and your friends if you had to move. But as time went on, I could see the nobility of my mom and dad's sacrifice. They left behind everything and everyone they knew for a chance at a better life for me and my two brothers. Imagine yourself in that boat needing to make a sacrifice like that. And I could see that they took us from a legacy of tyranny to a legacy of freedom. And I believe inside every human breast beats the living heart of freedom. Every man, every woman on this planet yearns to breathe free, to chart their own course, to march to the tune of their own drummer. And if you're an entrepreneur, you should relate to this. Freedom is what you need. Without freedom, you can't have free thought. Without free thought, you can't have free expression. You can't think about the great ideas to create your clinics and your businesses. And without that, you can't have free enterprise. You have to lick the tyrant's boot just to get a few crumbs for yourself and your family. And that's why I believe all of us that are entrepreneurs, freedom is innately what we seek. Freedom is innately what it's all about for us. And for me, that's why I do what I do. I got into the business of serving entrepreneurs because I want the good-hearted men and women that want to make a difference for the world to win and win big. I want to prep them to take advantage of the beautiful free enterprise system that we have here so that they can create a magical business of their dreams. And they can leave a beautiful legacy for the people they love, and they can leave a beautiful legacy for all of the people that they serve.
Yeah, absolutely. That's such a powerful story. And, you know, through the Kosovo, you know, the war there, I'm Orthodox Christian. And so we had a church where we would get refugees from there, and they were leaving everything. In fact, my son's father, he was a master's degree engineer. His sister, they were doctors. I mean, they weren't paying him anything, but they did everything they could, even doing the lotto, to try to leave at that time. And they came here, nothing. In fact, when I met him, he was a waiter, and they all lived in this one-bedroom apartment with two kids, so 3 adults, 2 kids, and he walked to the Galveston Yacht Club to be a busboy, and he didn't even know what eggs were at that time. And I met him when he had learned more. He was a waiter, not a busboy at that time, and that's how we met. But, you know, it just, when you look at kids, it's different. You just can't, you know, it's terrifying. I can't imagine it though, because we all think we'll be brave. right? And that we'll do what we need to do. But leaving everything is very, very hard, right? But if you want to be free, and as entrepreneurs, that you're right, it's a different type of freedom. It's the freedom to change the world, and we have to change the world for the better. We're fighting a lot on a lot of different battlegrounds right now, and it's a different type of war. But yet, every entrepreneur, especially the ones that we work with, they're fighting. They're fighting for patients, and they're fighting for real health care that actually gets people well and does not keep them in cycles of pharmaceuticals and surgeries that have a 70% or more failure rate. And so, it's amazing how brave people can be as entrepreneurs. And sometimes it's just even the small no, that we're not going to do it that way, can make a big difference. And
Amen.
you talk about that, like, how do we, when we get into comfort, because I deal with a lot of businesses too, that they end up getting stuck. And really, what they end up getting is in a comfort zone, and they just don't even know how to get out of it. They just know they're unhappy. When you work with people to get them to that, $30,000 more in 30 days, you have to get them out of where they're at, which is a type of comfort zone. Can you talk about that in the process, that you feel that you work with and you do?
Absolutely. Let me tell you a story about one of our clients. Actually, she used to be one of these naturopathic doctors. I'm going to call her Dr. Vicky. That's not a real name. So when I met her, she she was successful. She made 6 figures a year, but she had a big why for wanting to do better. See, she was daddy's beautiful girl, and her dad was a successful entrepreneur who was dying of brain cancer, glioblastoma. And he was going to die. It was clear. And she knew it. And she wanted to honor him and his legacy and memory by becoming successful, because he was a successful entrepreneur. And 6 months into us knowing her and working with her, her father passed away. And we went to the wake. And so she told me, it's really important that I grow my business. I can't be a 6-figure business. I got to be at least a 7-figure business, because that's what my dad did. And this is how I honor him. And I said, okay. So how do we do this? She's asked me. And I said, we're going to find out, who do you help? She said, I really can help anybody with any health problem. And I said, well, that's the problem. That's a little bit of lazy thinking, right?
Mm-hmm.
We need to narrow your focus. And she says, well, how do I do that? So I took her to something I call the ideal client exercise. So the ideal client exercise kind of goes a little something like this. Let me pull it out for you. It's a really, really powerful exercise. So in the ideal client exercise, 77 came close. There we
For
go.
those of you not watching it, he's pulled out this huge, what I'm sure is filled with absolute gold, workbook that he's using. And as
So this is the ideal client exercise. So first, you look at the clients you got the best results for. You list the clients you get amazing outcomes for. And then second, you look at the clients you enjoyed the most. You list the clients you enjoyed working with the most. Third, you look at the clients who are easiest to do business with. You list the clients that you found the easiest to do business with, right? They paid in full. They give you lots of referrals, no fuss, no muss. And then you want to know who's on all 3 lists. And once you know who's on all 3 lists, you want to see what they have in common. And she said, okay, well, who's on all 3 lists for me is professional women over the age of 45, married successfully, happily to their first and only husband, with kids, great careers. I said, wow, these women sound amazing. So why are they seeing you? She said, well, they're all over 45 and they all feel that beauty and youth have passed them by and they could never feel young and beautiful again. And listen, Jennifer, I'm a man. I obviously don't understand everything there is to understand about women the way, for example, a woman like yourself would, but I've heard somewhere that women do enjoy looking and feeling beautiful and young and vibrant. I've heard that may be true.
Yeah. Just like men's vitality is on the rise too. It's a wonderful thing. Yeah.
Yeah, for women, it's the whole beauty thing. For men, it's the whole vitality thing. And,
Yeah.
that's why certain drugs sell really, really well. For
Yeah.
So, anyways, long story short is, um, I asked her, so you can help these? She goes, oh yeah. She said, listen, getting older is inevitable. The number's going to go up every year, but aging isn't. She said, I can help you feel just as young and beautiful in your 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s as you did in your 20s and 30s. I'm like, really? She says, I said, that's a thing. She goes, that's a thing. I said, all right, let's do this. She says, okay, so what do we call the program? And I thought about it for a minute and I said, how about Get Your Sexy Back? She says, ooh, I like that. So Get Your Sexy Back became a thing. Within a year, she doubled her business. And then, but she kept at it. Year two, she doubled it again. Year three, she doubled it again. She went from 6 figures a year to 6 figures a month. A
That's
month.
I can see why. I can see why. It follows the pattern, right? If you figure out what you do and you do it to the best of your ability. And then once you know you've got your systems in place, you do it as much as you can. And unless you've done those two things, you're totally at the absolute capacity of best and most. Only then would you even consider doing something different. And usually, with most businesses, they go, what else can we add? And they basically create another underperforming business that sucks them dry.
Yep. Yep. And, you know, the power of focus is a beautiful thing.
Mm, absolutely, absolutely. And so, knowing to do that focus, um, were there any? I'm sure there must have been doubts, right? Because everyone thinks, well, I can do everything. Oh, these people are going to miss out, or they want to talk to everybody about all the other things that they know that they can do. How do you get them to focus when the people are actually in front of them? Because that focus in their ads and their marketing is actually what brought them in, and make them not mess it up
Well,
during the consultation or sales process.
so that's a really interesting question. So, um, there's several different types of coaches, but the coaches that I think get the best results are what we call elite coaches. So, um, let me just give you an example of sport. So, in the sport of basketball, in the last 20, 30 years, one of the best players has been a fellow by the name of Michael Jordan, right? And Michael Jordan had a coach that wasn't the basketball team's coach. It was his own personal coach. It was a guy named Tim Grover. I had the opportunity to do some work with Tim Grover. He was running some coaching programs that I signed up for and participated in. And elite coaches assume that if you're coming to them, you're coming to them because the result really matters to you, and that they don't need to deal with, shall we say, immature conversations with you. They're dealing with mature conversations. So people that come see an elite coach like a Tim Grover go to him because they're already one of the best at what they do. They want to be the very best at what they do. So when Tim says do this, they just do it. There's no, I need to be motivated. You get motivated by the doing. So when I coach people, I subscribe to the elite coaching theory as well. Someone refuses to do what I tell them. I mean, I love them. It's great, but we won't work together for very long. You know what I'm saying, Jennifer? Because
Yes, I do. And I've had to let go of people who did it, because I would ask them, well, what game do you want to play? Do you want to play the game of I'm just going to tell you you're great every time we meet and you make no progress, but it makes you feel good? Or do you actually want to, do what you're supposed to do and let's move
yeah,
forward? It's
yeah.
whatever game you want to play. You paid. I can do that. I feel it's a complete waste of time and I don't want to. And
Well,
but yeah.
I'm very fortunate. I curate our clients.
Mhm.
So like, we nominate you to be a client of ours. And if it doesn't work, we don't keep you. And honestly, we go through a lot before we accept a client, right? Because our clients, like, we have a community of heart-driven leaders. They're just incredible. They're spectacular. They're awesome
See,
people.
that's great.
Yeah.
That's great. And so you work with people, when you work with people to do 30,000 in 30 days or 1 million in 3 years or less, are you able, can you give any tips to our audience that it doesn't matter how much or how little they make now can get them there? You know, like,
Absolutely. I'll tell you another story.
mhm,
So there was a fellow who had an acupuncture clinic in New York City in Manhattan,
mhm,
and he was making $150,000 a year, but in Manhattan, that's treading water, right? It's
mhm.
like, so
Yeah, that's like minimum.
yeah, he's treading water.
It's crazy. You can't afford rent. Yeah.
So he said, I want to get to 1 million a year. And I said, all right, let's look at your business. So we did. Everything about his business was great except for one thing. He undercharged. He didn't charge enough. So I told him, I said, look, man, like, you have high level clients here and you're charging this. You're going to lose even the clients that you have if you keep this up. You got to charge at a level that they're going to take you seriously. He said, okay, so what do I do, Nicky? Like, raise my fees 10%. I go, 10%. He said, what, 20? I go, 20? Are you kidding me? He said, no, 30%. I said, no, dude, you got to 20x your prices, 20-fold your prices. Your prices are like for, a small town Americana, which is fine, but they're not for Manhattan high-powered people. They're just not. Those are not going to get their attention. So he freaked out. He said, are you kidding me? I can't do this. I'm like, dude, calm down. Don't hyperventilate. It's okay. We're going to be fine. He says, have you ever had a big gulp moment in your own life where, man, a big decision faced you and you're like, oh my God, I'm freaking out over here. So that was him. So I calmed him down and we were able to get him to agree to sevenfold his prices. He wouldn't go higher than that. He just wouldn't. But here's the interesting thing. Within 4 months, he added 1.2 million to his business. 4 months. And
That's
he
just
got
amazing, but
so many new
true.
clients. He had some big name people there, people you would recognize, like famous
Mhm.
actors who live in New York and Tribeca and places like that.
Mhm.
You know, and one of them said to him, I love you and I'm glad you raised your prices. He says, why? Because he says, I couldn't invite any of my friends over here at these ridiculously low prices. They would laugh at me. So I'm glad you raised your prices. And that's how come you went to 1.2 million in 4 months. And
Y-
if you're broke, if you got no money, you go 150,000, man, I got nothing. Well, I'll tell you another story. I had a client who was a fitness coach and he was broke. He was making $1,200 a month. A month. Okay. He lives in Toronto, where I live. Toronto is the New York City of Canada. You can just imagine $1,200 a month is
Your
not
poverty level at that. That's
oh God, yeah.
crazy.
In Toronto, you sure as heck are.
Yeah.
So he had 7 paying clients. He needed like 50, you know. So I asked him, so what do you do for clients? He goes, I can do anything for anybody. Familiar tune, right? A lot of
Yes.
people, they don't want to
Yeah.
miss out. The
Yeah.
problem is you are missing out because if you try to be all things to all people, you're nothing to nobody.
Hmm.
Does that make sense, right? You're nothing to
Oh, yeah,
nobody.
absolutely. I worked with a PT and who was doing everything for everybody and was a runner, a running specialist. And she said, I only want to work with runners because I understand the injury process. I understand how the hardening process, how to pick the right shoes, how to do the anything. When she finally made the choice and did that, went out on her own, and the office wasn't, I mean, all this stuff happened. The office wasn't right. She had to switch location, do everything. All this stuff happened. Challenge, 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 and then explosion, where she was totally doing what she wanted to do. When you and she went from barely getting by in Los Angeles of all places to looking at being in her late 20s with 7+ figures by charging. So
So,
yeah.
so Dan was, that was his name, Dan.
Hmm.
I told him he needed to narrow his focus. And at first he was like, what do you mean? Blah, blah, blah. And he goes, okay, I think I'll go after doctors. I'm like, what? Why? What's the rationale? He said, well, my dad's a doctor. I love my dad. I go, that's great. Why else? He said, they make a lot of money. I'm like, that's not going to work if that's your only focus is I love my dad and doctors make a lot of money. He said, no, I'm going to do it. And this was before I got my elite mentality on. And he did it for a couple months. He got 2 clients. I said, Danny, you need to try something else. He goes, okay, you're right. Okay, narrow the focus more. Okay, I got it. Cardiologists. I want to work with cardiologists. Why cardiologists? They make more money than doctors. I'm like, oh, Danny, you're not getting it. He goes, no, I'm doing it. You got no clients, no cardiologists. And then all of a sudden, through serendipity, through luck, God sent him a man who was a Paralympian athlete, missing leg since childhood because of an accident. His name was Papito Wilson. He was Cuban Canadian. He helped this guy win medals at major international competitions. So it really worked. And then he comes to me and he's all sheepish. He goes, Nicky, I owe you an apology. I've been a terrible client, uncoachable. You were right. I was going after the money. It didn't work. Yeah. So after that, he said to me, I think I want to help people with missing limbs. Missing limbs. He said, yeah, I know how to help them. I know what they need. I said, that's a great idea. Go for it.
Yeah, that's a divine purpose.
So in 6 weeks, he signed up 400 clients.
My goodness, who would have thought there would have been that many, right? And so you
Well,
probably wouldn't think there were that many.
why were they that many? So I want to break that down because that's
Yeah.
an important point. First of all, no other fitness coach was going after people with missing limbs. Not one at that time. Today there
Right.
are. At that
Yeah.
time, nobody. The idea was they can't work out. Forget about it, right? So,
Right.
but he knew better. They could work out. And his message to them wasn't, hey, come train with me. His message was, hey, you can do anything anyone else can do, and I'm going to prove it to you. You're a child of God just like anybody else. And let me tell you, that message hit home. Home. That's why you got 400 clients. Blue ocean, no one going after it. And the message was not, I'll get you fit. The message was, you can do anything anyone else can do.
That's a purpose. That's a reason to get up in the morning. That's something to be an evangelist about, that you can fire up an entire team and really grow a business, because that is worthy. That is very worthy. Love it.
So imagine you put yourself in the shoes of these folks, right, that have missing limbs. You're probably not thrilled to not have all your limbs, right? You're probably unhappy about that.
No.
And when someone, comes to you and says, hey, you can do anything anyone else can do, that's a message that's going to speak to your soul. That's a message that's going to resonate. So this kid went from $1,200 a month to 120 grand a month, like million plus a year. Think about that. That's crazy.
Yeah.
For a fitness coach back before there was such a thing as online coaching.
Yeah, that's incredible. So, guys, we are getting to the end. We've been talking to Nicky Billou, and remember, if you want to get that $30,000 in 30 days, you need to make sure you're laser focused on what you do and you understand your real purpose of it. And Nicky, can tell people how they can find you and learn more about you and where to go.
Well, the best thing to do, if you want to have a conversation with me about how this can apply to your life and your business, is go to my calendar, ecircleacademy.com, and book a free success call where I'll give you 45 minutes of my time. We can talk about how these principles can apply to your business. But you want to find me on social media, just go to @Nicky Billou on any major platform.
Okay, and we will have all the links, like we always do, below this episode on any major listening platform. I want to thank you, Nicky, for being here today and taking the time out of your incredibly busy schedule to just inspire us and get us focused back on, living our purpose and being honored and valued for that, so that we can live great, long lives doing exactly what we want to do. So thank you for being here.
My pleasure.
Okay, guys, this has been the end of our episode. Please like, follow, and share, and be sure to give us a 5-star review. It helps us get world-class people like Nicky on the show. Everybody, you guys have a great Super Clinic week. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to the Super Clinic Project Podcast. If you like what you hear, subscribe and stay tuned for further episodes of the Super Clinic Project Podcast.